Okay, everybody and community partners, welcome to the Wolfsonian Public Humanities Lab guide for our camcorder and oral history setup and our lapel system setup. So today we're going to go over a few things. Number one, we're going to go over what equipment are we using. Okay, so we're going to go over everything that you're going to need to conduct a proper oral history, the equipment that most of the partners have that's pretty much identical. There's a couple of variations depending on partner needs, but for the most part, all the equipment you're going to see today, everybody has and has something very similar. If there's something here that you may not have or did not order and think you may need, just contact us, Katie, myself, Rye, or anybody on the team, and we can go ahead and order that for you. Okay, we're also going to go over setting up the equipment. So what does it look like when you actually set up the camcorder, the tripod, the lapel system, to get ready to record your first oral history. And then we're going to go over the lavalier system setup. So you all ordered the Rode Wireless 2 lapel system, okay? So we're going to go over what that looks like, what they look like, what parts come in the Rode Wireless lapel system. And last but not least, we're going to go over the camcorder, the Panasonic camcorder that you all also ordered, how to set that up, what you're going to need, what it's going to look like, and getting it all set up for your first oral history recording. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope that this is useful for you in the future, and you can pass it on to whoever continues to work in your institution now and in the future. Okay, everybody, so first we're going to go into what equipment do we need, what are we going to be using. So first and foremost, we have just your basic tripod, okay? So just like a regular tripod, you know, we have like a pretty basic setup here. You don't need anything heavy duty, really, because the camcorder is pretty lightweight. So just a regular tripod with a screw mount at the top, like you see here on this one, works perfectly, okay? So first and foremost, we need a tripod. Second up, we have our camcorder, okay? So this is our camcorder that has no recording limit. That's one of the reasons why we got this camcorder, is because you can record as long as you like with this camcorder without stopping, without the video stopping or the video dying, right? It's got a very long battery life. It's good to go. So your basic handycam camcorder, okay? This one's got a really cool flashlight as well. Okay, so you're gonna need this as well. So this is another part of the production that you're going to need. Next up, we have the cold shoe adapter mount, okay, that we ordered for everybody and comes with the camcorder, and I'll explain why you need this in 1 second, but this is another piece of equipment you're going to need. We have a standard SD card. This is an 128 gigabyte SD card, so it holds a lot of memory, but whatever you have, you know, it'll work. 128 is what we recommend, but whatever you have will work just fine. We have a pair of headphones, okay? So a regular pair of headphones that you can connect to your camcorder so you can listen to your oral history as it's being conducted is definitely necessary. And then we have the lapel, the Rode Wireless Go 2 lapel system. So there's actually like 3 parts to this. So you can see here. So there's actually 3 parts to this. So we have the 2 receivers that you see here, which are these 2 right here that don't have a screen at the top, right? Let me get that into focus for you. So we have the 2 receivers right here, okay? And then we have the actual transmitter here that captures the audio from both of the lapel microphones, okay? So a 3-part system. We'll explain this later on in the video, how to set it up and what that's gonna look like, but that's the Rode Wireless system. And then last but not least, we have a Tascam field recorder, okay? So this is another audio recording option. You don't necessarily need this if you have the Rode Wireless setup, but this is another option that we'll look into in a future video as to something that you might need, okay? And then we also have the actual lapel microphones, okay? So here's one lapel microphone, here's another lapel microphone, just, you know, regular lapel microphones that connect to the Rode Wireless 2 system. So that is everything that we're gonna need first and foremost to start and record our first oral history, okay? So now let's actually set this equipment up, right? So what does that look like? So first and foremost, we're gonna set up the tripod, okay? So you're gonna extend the legs as far as possible, okay? Most of the time we need the legs extended, you know, pretty high, just so you get a good view of the actual subject of the narrator as a part of this oral history, okay? So let me go ahead and extend all the legs, and some of the tripods are slightly different, right? So they might have different knobs or ways to actually extend the legs, but it's pretty basic for all of them, okay? So So you can also tighten and loosen some of the knobs on the actual tripod so that you can move and kind of like glide the camera a little bit. For a typical oral history, you're not really going to need to do this too much because it's pretty static. We just want to get a good view of the subject. But it's useful to have for future reference, or if you ever need to do anything a little bit more fancy. But for the purposes of a regular oral history, you know, you're really going to keep the video a little static, right? So you're just going to focus on the actual narrator. Okay, so once you have your tripod all good and set up, you're going to go ahead and grab your camcorder. Okay, so I charged this camcorder. Once you take it out of the box, you're going to need to charge it just to make sure that it's good to go and ready to record. The first thing that you're going to notice is that when you actually open up the camcorder, it's going to say there's no card, right? And it's going to be beeping. So you're going to need to insert a card before you begin, right? So the insert for the card is located on the bottom, right, of the actual camcorder. You can see this little flap right over here. So you're going to flip that flap down. You're going to see that there's no SIM card there. It's kind of empty. So you're going to grab your SIM card and you're going to insert it into the SD card slot right there, and you'll close this little flap. Boom, and there you go. You're good to go. So now you're going to see that when we open this back up, right, it doesn't say that anymore. We don't get that no SIM card issue, right? So you're good to go. There we go. Okay, so that's an option you can do as well that we'll go over in a second. But at the bottom of your camera, let me close this for a second. On the bottom of your camera, you're gonna see like a little screw mount right there. You see that? That's for the tripod. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, basic tripod works. So you're gonna align that with the screw on the top of your tripod and connect it to the actual tripod to keep it stable, to keep it level, to make sure that you don't get any shakiness in the oral history, right? So that's what we're doing right here. So now we have the camcorder mounted to the tripod. We can open this up now that we have our SIM card inserted, right? So now the next thing you're gonna do is you're going to set up your wireless lapel system, okay? So that's why we need the cold shoe mount. The cold shoe mount over here that I mentioned earlier. That's why we're gonna need this, because if you notice, if you look at the top of your camera, there's nowhere for you to place like a flash or nowhere to place a receiver like the Go wireless receiver, right? So you need to actually be able to like place this somewhere, and that's where the cold shoe mount comes in, okay? So there's a little shoe adapter option here. Look, let me unscrew this so I can show you for a second. So at the back of your camcorder, there's a shoe adapter insert. Okay, so you're gonna grab your cold shoe insert and you're just going to slip it into the back and it clicks in, and then there you go. So now you can place a flash here, you can place a audio receiver, which is what we're gonna do today, but it's basically just a holder. It's a cold shoe mount, so it doesn't have any electrical connection to the camcorder. It just holds whatever you need to hold right there for more stability, okay? So we're gonna place this back onto our tripod. So now that we have our cold shoe mount mounted and connected to our camcorder, we are going to connect. We're going to mount the wireless receiver first of the Go wireless system. So if you look at this one's different because it's got a little screen, you know, in the front. So if you turn it on, you turn on the wireless system by holding and pressing this down. And we're going to go in depth a little bit on this in a second. First, we're just going to go over like what it looks like, what you need to do to actually set everything up. But if you see, there's like a little screen that pops up, you know, at the front of this. The other two don't have screens, okay? So we're going to get the receiver, right? And we are going to connect it to our cold shoe, right? Just slip it in, right? So now it's mounted up on top there. And you see that it's got a little jack. So you're going to connect this to the microphone port of your camcorder. So our microphone port is located right here, okay? Where you see that it says mic. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to connect this right over there so that there's an electrical connection and it's communicating between the camcorder and the actual Rode wireless receiver, okay? So once they're connected right here, whatever audio you record through the lapels is going to be automatically embedded into the video that you record, okay? So that's why you need to make sure that that is connected, so that you're actually recording whatever audio you record through the lapels is going to be automatically embedded into the video. Okay, so what's the other thing you need to do? Don't forget to connect your headphones as well. Okay, because when you're recording an oral history, you always want to make sure that you're listening to what's happening, you're listening to the recording, you're making sure that the levels are good, that the speaker is being heard, the narrator is being heard, right? So you always are going to want to like monitor the levels of the audio with a pair of headphones, right? So this is just a basic pair of headphones with the same jack, input jack, right? That you can see right over here. Same input jack, right? So where is that located on your camera? You know, also not very hard, towards the front of the camera. And some of the cameras that you all have are slightly different, so you might have to just take a look at the body, but they all have these inserts, right? Our camera's got it right here at the front. You kind of can see a little headphone logo right there, right? You flip this up, and then the jack is located right there. So we're gonna connect this. Boom, there we go. And once it's connected, right, now we can hear everything that's happening through our headphones, and we can monitor that noise, okay? Now to recap, right? We have the camcorder connected to the tripod, right? We have the cold shoe mount connected to the camcorder, and we mounted our Rode Wireless GoII adapter receiver over to the cold shoe mount, right? So, oh, and we also connected our headphones, right? So we can put these on. You know, you can adjust this for your head size. My head's kind of big, so I gotta put it on the maximum length, right? So you can put these on and you can listen to what's happening. So now the last thing that we're gonna need to do is that we're going to connect and turn on our actual microphones, our actual lapel microphones, right? So the cool thing about these lapel system, this lapel system, is that these are actually, they can serve as the lapel microphones themselves. That I'll go over in a second, right? So for now, let's just go ahead and talk about what it looks like. So you press this button at the bottom, right, to turn on. You press and hold that to turn these on, and then and now you're good to go. So you can just go ahead and connect your lapels to the receivers, right? So this is one lapel microphone, right? And you're gonna go ahead and connect this. On the top, you have a little input jack as well. You're gonna connect the input jack of the lapel microphone to the lapel. The Rode wireless lapel receiver, right? So now this is what we have. So you have the regular lapel microphone that you'll actually clip onto somebody's clothes, right? To the narrator's clothes. And then this goes in their pocket. It can clip onto their belt, whatever you'd like. And that's what you have. So we'll have two of these, right? So one of these will be for the actual narrator, whoever you're interviewing. And then one of these will be for whoever is actually asking the question. So whoever on your team, whether it's one of our interns or it's somebody on your staff, whoever is going to be asking the questions will have this one on, okay? So that's basically the whole setup. So let's just go ahead and recap, and then we'll go over a little bit on setup for the Rode wireless system, a little bit more in-depth information on the Rode wireless system, a little bit more in-depth information on the camcorder, and then some recording tips, right? So let's go over what we have one more time again, just to recap. So we have the tripod set up. We've got the camcorder connected to the tripod. We have the cold shoe mount connected to the camcorder. We've connected our Rode wireless receiver onto the hot shoe mount. And then we have connected our headphones as well to our camcorder so we can listen to what's going on. And then we turned on our actual lapels. And we connected the lapel microphones to the Rode wireless lapel receivers, right? So now we're good to go. So at this point, your camera's ready to go, your lapel system is ready to go. So the only thing you would do now is connect these lapels to your narrator and to your interviewer, so whoever's asking the questions, and press record. And now you're ready to go, you're ready to start. So what this means is that any audio that is recorded, like I said earlier, any audio that's recorded through the lapel systems, right, will be captured straight into the video, which is really, really cool. And we'll do a whole other tutorial about editing, right, and what that looks like. We teach this to our interns through our trainings, right? But this is just kind of like the basic setup on getting ready and recording the actual interview. So now let's go a little bit more in depth into the Rode wireless system. Like, what is it? How does it work? Right? So if you take a look, I'm going to unplug this for a second just to show you a closer look. So this is the receiver, and now that we have both of the microphones turned on, you can see that the levels are bouncing up and down, right? The levels bounce up and down based on whatever noise is going into them, right? So you can see here, look, let me turn the light on, that when I speak into one of the microphones, the levels go up a little bit more drastically than the other microphone, right? And vice versa. So if I grab the other lapel microphone and I speak into it, check, check, you see that the opposite happens right there, right? So you can just take a look at this to make sure that the Rode wireless system is actually picking up the noise that needs to be picked up. It's actually capturing audio, right? And we can see here by the audio levels, the audio chart moving up and down, that it is picking up audio and we're good to go to record, right? So all we need to do is connect this to our camcorder, right? If this is not, always remember that if this is not connected to your camcorder, if this receiver is not connected, you're not picking up audio, okay? And the camcorder will be picking up the audio from the internal microphone, and you don't really want that because the internal microphone is not very good, you know. So we want to make sure that we're picking up clean, crisp audio, and the Rode wireless system does a really good job of picking up really nice, clean audio from any speakers, right? So the other cool thing that you can do is that sometimes what you might see, right, is that if you're looking at the chart, right, you'll see the audio actually breaking into a red zone. And you don't want that, because when the audio breaks into the red zone, that means that the audio is clipping, right? So what does that mean? So when audio clips, that means that the audio is kind of like, it's overbearing to the actual microphone system. It's too sensitive, so you're kind of blowing out the microphone sound. So if you've ever heard like a speaker that sounds broken, or someone who like yells too loud into a microphone and it kind of blows out the speaker a little bit, that's what will be happening if the audio is hitting the red mark on the actual receiver, right? So let me see if I can show you an example of that. So if you look at this and maybe, and if I'm gonna yell a little bit into this microphone already, you see that it hits, you see that little red mark right there? That means that I clipped the audio, and you don't want that, right? And you can avoid this a couple of ways. So that could be avoided one of two ways. Number one, you can make sure that when you clip the microphone onto your speaker's clothes, that it's not too close to their mouth, right? So you don't want it like on their, it doesn't have to be too close. So you don't want it like on their collar or anywhere that's too close to their mouth. You can put it a little bit farther down onto their chest, so that when they do speak, the microphone isn't picking up too much of the audio, too loud audio, so that it's not going to be clipping that noise, and you'll get a nice clean signal, right? The other way that you can avoid this is that you can use the two buttons on the bottom of the receiver, right? You see those two buttons? That if you click the minus or the plus, it will make the actual audio signal less or more sensitive, right? So that you'll be able to actually control how sensitive the lapel microphones are. So if you need them to be more sensitive, if your speaker is maybe a little bit quieter, right, you can actually make the microphones more sensitive with these two buttons at the bottom, so that you pick up the audio in a clear way. And vice versa, if your speaker is a little bit loud, maybe they speak a little bit louder, you can make the microphones less sensitive so the audio isn't clipping. So you can adjust the sensitivity of the lapels through these two buttons for both of your speakers. So I always recommend that before you start a oral history, you just you put the lapel microphones on your speaker and you see how they naturally speak. And you can adjust that, right, to make sure that you're getting a clean signal. So I would always just check on that, always, because you don't want to like do a whole interview, record a really amazing talk, and then realize that either the audio was clipping the whole time, or the speaker was not loud enough, unfortunately, right? We want to make sure that we're getting a nice, clean, loud, not loud, but a nice, clean, even sound, right, when we record these oral histories. So that is a big tip. Right, but that's pretty much everything you need to know about the Go Wireless 2 lapel system. They're really simple, and they're so simple to set up. It takes 2 seconds, right? As long as you turn your camera on and you connect the lapel system to the hot shoe, right? You connect the actual receiver to the camcorder like we're doing here. It takes 2 seconds. As long as you do that and you make sure that you're checking the levels and you're listening, right, with the headphones to make sure that the levels are good, you're good to go. All you got to do is plug this in. It's really like a plug and play system. You plug this into your camcorder, you clip this onto your speakers, and you're good to go. It's very, very simple, okay? So very simple way to record really, really good, clean, crisp audio. Okay, everybody. So now let's talk a little bit about the camcorder. Okay. So here we have a Panasonic HC V770 camcorder. So it's a really simple camcorder. It's got a really nice weight to it, right? And it's gonna do everything that you need to do, everything that you need it to do to record a nice, proper oral history. Okay, so these camcorders are made for video, right? So they really, you can leave them on, you can leave them recording for hours, and you're not gonna have to worry about battery time as long as you charge the battery with the appropriate amount of time. But you're not gonna have to worry about the video turning off and on and recording 30 minutes and then stopping, or recording 20 minutes and then stopping. You can really leave this camcorder go for as long as you need it to go, which is one of the cool features about it. Okay, so a couple things to note that you can see on the camcorder body is that on the side it's got a nice little strap for your hand if you're going to do any hand work, but most of the time we're going to have this on a tripod, so you're not really going to need to use that too much. Okay, on the top we have the speakers, right, and the microphone that are internal to the camera that we're not really going to use too much because we have our Rode wireless system to record some crisper audio, right? So, but we do have that is an option. So if you do maybe forget the Rode wireless system one day and you're in an emergency and it's a once in a lifetime interview and you need to record an interview and oral history with somebody, right, you can still do so. It still has a microphone inside, so it will still pick up audio, but it's just not going to be as clean and crisp as you'd like it to be. Up here in the front as well, we have like a little roller selection tool that we'll see later, that you can use this to scroll through the menus inside to change the settings or anything. Up on top, we have a couple things for you to note as well. Up here, we've got a little toggle switch that goes to the left and to the right, and this is to zoom in and to zoom out. Okay, so if you want to zoom in a little bit closer to your interviewer or zoom out, you can do that as well. So you can always make sure that you're getting a nice, clean, close view of your narrator. Typically when you're recording an oral history, you don't want too much craziness in the background. Like right now I've got kind of a lot happening in the back. When you're recording an oral history, you really want to make sure that you're kind of getting a clean background, so you're just focusing on the narrator and their story, right? So you can kind of zoom in a little bit to see what they're doing and see what's going on. The cool thing about this as well is that it also has a little button right here with a camera. This is actually a camera button. So if you turn this camcorder on, you can also take a picture. I'm assuming you're probably not going to use that too much, but if you ever need to take a picture with this camcorder, you can do that as well. You can press this little button up here and it will capture a JPEG image, right? If we flip this open, well, actually, let's look a little bit closer into the camera. So this camera in the box, it also comes with a charger, right? So if you need to charge the camera directly, you can open this little port on the side and connect the charger. Okay. Here on the back we have the battery connected. Okay, so this is where you release and input the battery. What else of note? Oh yeah, up over here, like I showed you earlier, we have the headphone input jack that you can flip up and down to input the headphones. On the bottom, like I mentioned, we have the SD card input. Let's let that focus. We have the SD card input that flips up and down so you can insert an SD card. And we have the mount for the actual tripod, right? And then the most important part, actually, one of the most important features of the external part of this camcorder is that right over here, this is the record button. So this little red button on the bottom, that's what you're going to hit when you're ready to record. So I'll show you that in 1 second, but that's what you're going to hit when you're ready to record. If we flip open the camcorder, you're going to see that the lens kind of comes out there. It opens up. Let's do it one more time. Right, so there you go. It closes there. If you flip this up, the lens is ready to go and ready to record, right? So now we've got some features on the inside of this flipped menu, right? So if you look over here, you're gonna be able to see that it's recording my face now, right? And then we've got a couple features on the side of the camera, right? So let's take a look at that together. So we have an option to connect a lightning cable, okay? And a HDMI cable. So if you ever want to view some of these images, some of these videos on a TV, you can do that. If you ever want to export some images straight to your computer without taking the SD card out, you can do that as well through the lightning port that's right there, right? So we have the lightning port, and then we have the HDMI port right next to it. We have the AV and the mic ports as well, like I mentioned earlier, okay? So you can see that right there, the AV and the mic ports. So this is the one that we're really going to be using more. This is where you're going to connect this port right here that says mic. That's where you're going to connect the Rode wireless receiver, right? We have a couple buttons up over here as well. We've got the on and off power button, right over there, the on and off power button. The power button right there. We have the Wi-Fi button as well, okay? And that's really, from what I understand, from what I've been exploring this camcorder, that's a lot for the, they have an app actually that you can download that I'll show you as well. There's an app that you can download that connects to this camcorder and allows you to view, the videos you've taken, download the videos right to your phone, kind of connect wirelessly with this camera. This is a balance button that kind of shows you it. This button over here that kind of looks like a seesaw, there's a seesaw there. When you click that, it shows you kind of like a graphic on the inside of the camera, so you can see if your subject is level, if whatever you're shooting is level and straight, right? So you can see that over there. And then this top button, the top button that we see right over here, the top one, if you click that, that's where you can go ahead and see your video library. So you can see the videos that you've taken, you can watch them, make sure that the lighting is good, just take a quick look at them, right? But you're really gonna wanna do that more often on your computer, right? So like taking the SD card out and watching the videos on your computer, you'll be able to see better that way, right? Last but not least, we have two buttons over here. So this one right here on the bottom is a battery eject. So you can click that and then eject the battery, right, this way. And then up on top, we have the shoe release, the shoe adapter release, right? So if you click that down, you'll actually be able to remove this, because if you have to hold it down and remove it at the same time, you need two hands, right? But if you don't hold this down, you're not going to be able to remove the cold shoe, right? The cold shoe adapter. But you can remove that by holding that down right over there. And that's pretty much it, really. So like I said, this is all a very simple setup, right? So the lapel system is a very simple setup. The camcorder is a very simple camcorder, right? But it's all very effective and very easy to like go ahead and like on the go record these old histories whenever you need to do it, wherever you need to do it, really, right? It's a very portable setup as well. So let's go over a couple things on the inside screen, okay? So once you turn on the camcorder, so there's a couple options that will pop up once you take a look at this, right? And it's actually a touchscreen. So the camera is actually a touchscreen camera, which is really, really interesting. So you can use that for whatever you may need. But you can actually use the front button over here to scroll through the menus. But if you want to do it easier, you can really just click and go wherever you need to with the touchscreen in the inside of this camera. Okay. So if you see here, you can click the little buttons, the little arrows on the bottom to scroll through the actual menu, right, for the camcorder. So if you take a look here, you don't even have to really use the buttons that I showed you before. If you scroll this way, you can actually zoom in and out. Let me show you a couple options. So if you click this button right over here, this turns on the camera's little flashlight, right? So if you need some extra light, that's a really cool function of this camera, is that you can actually use the flashlight that is located on the actual camera. So that's really, really useful. A couple other options that you can mess around with is that right over here you can control the shutter speed. Okay, so if you need a little bit more light, so if you see that the room that you're in is a bit dark, you can lower the shutter speed so that you're letting more light into the video, and you can capture your subject with more light, right? So you can move that. We have the white balance, so I would always leave it on auto white balance, really, so that it'll just automatically adjust for whatever lighting you're in. Okay, and then also we have the focus, autofocus, manual focus. You're always going to want to leave it on autofocus, right? We'll get to the menu in a second. Right over here, you can click record. So if you don't want to use the button on the back, you can actually scroll through the menu and record or stop the recording. You can also go wider, right, or zoom in through these two buttons here, right? So you can do that straight through the touchscreen here. We can also, let's go through here. We saw this one. I'm just showing you what you're really gonna need. So if we go into the menu, a couple things that I would always recommend. So if you go to record setup, and then you go to record mode, right? I'll always have this on MP4, and I'm on 1080 MP4 setting. Okay, so I'll always keep it on this setting. I just feel like this is what works best after I was using this camera, right? So when I turned this camera on, it was actually on AV CHD setting. You don't want that. Make sure that you flip it down to the MP4 iframe setting. Okay, that's just like a more usable, a more user-friendly way to record, right? And it's more standard now in a lot of video recordings. So always make sure you're on the MP4 mode, and then you're on the 1080 MP4 mode down here as well. But that's really everything you need to know through this touchscreen setting, and you're good to go. Once you're ready, you just hit that record button, and you're ready to go. You're ready to record your first oral history. Okay, everybody, so that's pretty much our first like a quick rundown as to the what you would need and how to use the actual oral history equipment. Obviously, please reach out to me and we'll go over some more in-depth questions or anything else that you might have. You can reach out to me and we can troubleshoot together, and we can look at these issues you might be having together. But it's a pretty straightforward setup, right? So we took a look at the camcorder, we took a look at our Lapel wireless system, we took a look at everything. So really you should be good to go. After you set everything up the way that I did and showed you how to navigate through the system, you're ready to just hit the record button and hit the ground running, right? So once you record your first oral history, you can just eject your SD card and read it onto your actual laptop, and then you're good to go. You can export that, you can edit the video whichever way you'd like. And like I said, we can make a whole different video just kind of showing you how to edit the video on Premiere Pro. I know we got a lot of you the Adobe software subscriptions, right? So we can use that and help you edit through that. But it's a pretty easy setup. It's a pretty quick, easy setup. Okay, and like I said, it's a really fun setup as well. This camera is a really fun camera to use. The Rode wireless system is a really fun lapel system to use as well. But it's a cool and easy setup to get you started on collecting those oral histories and really preserving this history for as long as we possibly can, and hopefully forever. So we're really excited for you all to have this equipment and to be ready to go recording your first oral histories. Okay, so before we go, there's just a couple things that a couple tips that I would give you for recording oral histories with this equipment that we can go over. Number one, I would say that if you do need to get a little bit more light, I would recommend using the actual flashlight on the camcorder. Like I said, you can turn it off or on depending on whether you need it or not, but it is a really cool way to add a little bit more light to your subject and make sure that they're being lit up correctly if you need it in a pinch. And the other tip that I would give you is to always just make sure that you have enough light. Sometimes it seems like you do have enough light, but really for these videos, you're going to want a really good amount of light to make sure that you're capturing the narrator properly, that you're capturing the video properly. It's really bad if you have like a really dark subject. You just want to see people clearly, you know. So if you can turn on all the lights in the room, if you can bring a light in, if you want us to order you a light, you know, that's something that we can look into. Or if you just need to turn on the actual flashlight on the actual camcorder, it all helps. But just as long as you make sure you have enough light and you have a good light source, that's one of the best things you can do when recording an oral history. The other tip that I would give is to always wear headphones when you're recording. Okay, so whether it is our WPHL CDC intern or whether it's one of your staff members, whoever isn't asking questions, or even if you are asking questions to the narrator, right, I would have my headphones on so that I can listen to what's happening, that I can make sure that if there are any changes to the actual to the lapel system or to the way they're speaking, I can make those changes on the lapel system and make sure that I'm capturing the audio clearly. What else I would also say is to look out for jewelry or any like sort of like clothing that might hit the lapel as they're speaking, because sometimes we'll clip it onto their actual shirt and they'll have like a necklace, or their hair might be brushing up against the lapel, and then you get kind of like a weird scratchy noise while they're speaking, and it can be distracting. So if you just always look out for any hair that's getting in the way, any jewelry that might be a little noisy when you're recording an oral history, and kind of help get that out of the way, or maybe take off the jewelry that might be a little bit noisy, you know, just while they're recording the interview, so that we get a clear audio signal, right? And I would even recommend, you know, if you have the headphones in and you notice halfway through the interview that their hair or some jewelry is making a little bit of noise, I would recommend stopping the interview for a second and just, you know, fixing that issue. Some people get a little bit scared to stop the recording because people are telling the story and they're in flow. But I would much rather get a good, clean interview, just stop for a second and then jump right back into it, than not do that, right? But obviously, you know, use your discretion. If somebody's in the middle of a very heartfelt story, you know, maybe give it a second and then ask them to fix that issue. But always watch out for that. I would always make sure that I'm watching out for that issue. The other thing that I would say, the other tip that I would say, besides lighting and watching out for that audio, is just have fun. Prepare questions and reach out to myself and our WPHL team if you have any questions about this equipment, if you need anything, or if you just want us to be there to troubleshoot these issues with you while you're figuring out your first couple oral histories. But besides that, we're really happy to be continuing this with you, and we're really happy to see everyone jumping into their oral history collecting as a part of the Community Data Creation Grant. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.